to a new world of gods and monsters.
He's alive!
Here's Johnny.
What's your favorite scary movie?
Oh, I'm telling you, brother, it's a frightful sight. See what goes on Halloween night.
And we are back with Why We Love Horror. John, Melissa, how are you both doing?
Happy to be here. How about you?
I'm also happy to be here. What a coincidence. It's been okay. We've had some time off, but not a lot. Just the normal amount of time off. So we're going to try to keep this train rolling.
Yes. Today we are talking Cobweb.
Peter, sometimes you have to make hard decisions to protect your family.
What is that? The banging.
Enough! You don't hear anything, Peter.
You have a beautiful imagination. It's going to get you into trouble one day.
I'm going to have John. You want to start it off?
Sure. You might not even know about Cobweb. Cobweb is a movie that came out in July. Just randomly dropped into theaters. I do believe, and we'll get into it later, I do believe that wasn't the intention of the marketing of this movie, but they dropped it anyway, kind of just forgotten in theaters. It's about a boy, and he hears noises in his room, and we don't know if it's like a haunted house movie or if it's something else. His parents are really weird and abusive, and he's also like a kid that's being bullied, and he has a lovely substitute teacher that takes interest in him. But it all comes to a head when we find out what's really going on in this kid's house, and it takes a weird turn. But we'll get to that as we discuss the movie, Mike.
I like that. Yeah. Overall impressions, I enjoyed it. I had a good time with it. It gave me a lot of without spoilers, let the right one in, people on the stairs type vibes and little bits and pieces, which I liked. Melissa, how about you?
Initial thoughts is I did not like it. I think some of the positives or the strengths of the movie would be, I think the atmosphere that's established is really good, and there's some really nice shots. But I think the script was a bit of a mess, which it honestly feels very similar to The Voyage of the Demeter, where I felt like it had a good cast. It had some elements I did like, but I just don't feel like it all really came together for me.
Yeah, I think cast-wise, this movie's really strong. No secret, I love Anthony Starr. Banshee was my favorite television show ever. It's untouchable. Anthony Starr, what can't this man do? Also, Homelander from The Boys, if you're a fan of that too. Anthony Starr is just freaking one of the best imports that nobody talks about over the last few years. I like Lizzie Kaplan in almost everything. I think that's actually perfect casting for a slightly crazy, overprotective, but doesn't give a shit mother. Lizzie Kaplan's the first person that pops into my head. I don't know who you're thinking about. Cleopatra Coleman shows up as usual. She's in the movie, right? And then that kid from the Last Voyage of the Demeter is the kid in this movie. What a year! Yes. What a year! I forget his name. You guys name that right?
Woody Norman.
Woody Norman, that's right. That kid. And then the other kid, he's the bully. That kid's last name is Busey, but no relation to the Busey family, which is really weird. I was trying to say, how's he related to Gary Busey? And he's not. That's the most upsetting thing about this movie, that kid isn't a real Busey. So, Mike, what else we got?
I also enjoyed the hell out of the cast. And one you mentioned did fucking great. Lizzie Kaplan, she just has that look of a slightly crazy person, and she plays it really well.
Oh, you know what else? No spoilers. I'm not going to spoil anything yet. But there is voice work by Mad TV's Deborah Wilson in this movie, which I didn't realize that until I went back and listened again. It definitely is her. an underappreciated talent in this movie as well.
Yeah, for me, like that didn't work when we get to that. But yeah, in regards to the cast, again, I thought they did as good as they could, but I just thought the script was really kind of holding them back. And I for me, one of the biggest problems was the parents, because I just wish we either got more fun, crazy vibes. Like they definitely were creepy. They had that creepy aspect to them, and I felt like they played that very well. But it's just I wanted them to be like fun creepy, or like more sinister creepy. But also I just felt like one of the biggest problems with this movie is the setup. There's not really a setup. And like I kind of wish we got a little bit more of like maybe the parents before this movie, because when you start thinking about it, it doesn't make a whole lot of sense.
Yeah, tell spoilers up. Tell spoilers up.
I'm having a hard time.
Yeah, so spoilers
thing, which is kind of a spoiler, but not really a spoiler. Look, I think what Melissa wants to get at, but she can't get at that spoiler in the movie, is the parents are red herrings the entire time. Like they are set up to be creepy, like abusive people, like creepy, abusive parents, but they're not the bad guys. Like you find out that they have to be that. Maybe they don't have to be that way, but that's how.
They definitely don't have to be that way.
They made a choice. They made a choice that this is how they were going to move on due to an incident that gets described loosely throughout the movie, and they make you put the pieces together yourself. And you might even be wrong with how you put the pieces together. But I have a general idea of what I think is going on in this movie.
But I kind of think they are the bad guys, and I think they're the most interesting part of the film. So I just feel like it was such a misfire to not really like explore a little bit more of their backstory. I would even be okay with, I don't really like exposition, but I think this movie actually would have like benefited from some type of like setup, or just like a little bit more of like because it feels like these parents have turned. Because you're telling me that this little kid for the past, I don't know, 8 years or so, I think he's like 8 years old, is just like living his life with these parents. Like that's the part that is like kind of hard to believe. It feels like they've kind of been okay, and then something's like turned. At least that was my impression. And it's like, why?
Yeah, that's a legit criticism, because like the kid isn't like 2, he's like 8. So like, and the backstory that we're given, actually, I think the movie, and without getting into fully like John fixing it, like if they just told the whole story from the beginning, this would have been like a 5-star movie. I think if they just told it from the beginning, from like before the kid was born, like years before the kid was born, and just told the whole story that they didn't tell you, that might be actually a better movie.
Yeah, like I don't know. I just felt like I was missing too much information, that like I was struggling to like understand a lot of the choices of the movie, and I felt like a lot of the movie too is very vague, and it kind of hurt the movie that it didn't have much of a voice, I would say, because I was like kind of confused, like the location and like the time period and and then all the things I just talked about. But anyways, I've been talking too much. What did you guys think about that?
I mean, let me piece it together. I believe it's like the 80s, and it's northeastern United States. That I can tell you. But like, basically, the backstory is that the parent Anthony Starr and Lizzie Kaplan, I forget their actual names in the movie because they don't really say them that much.
Yeah.
But had a daughter, right? And the daughter was like a legit, like it's alive monstrosity, right? But they go about their lives, and they're gonna just kind of keep this daughter thing in their house. And then one fateful Halloween, a trick-or-treater comes to the door, and apparently the daughter sees the daughter, and the parents panic and kill the girl and bury her in the backyard. Then as a result of that, we can't have this shit ever happen again. So they build a pit in the basement that they keep her in, right? So, the parents of the year. So she's in the pit in the basement for years and years and years. But through living in this pit, she's learned how to like scale walls and everything. So the pit can't hold her anymore. So then they build this gigantic, like, barbarian type contraption in the upstairs of their house where they keep her. Yet for some reason, while the son is growing up, she doesn't reveal herself until he's like 8. And that's kind of where the movie starts. I would have loved that whole movie.
Yeah.
That would have been great.
I guess that's what I mean. Like, I feel like the movie was missing the setup versus like that being the part of the mystery. Like, I don't know, that didn't really work for me. But I will say, switching back to some positives before I keep going into the negatives, I will say it kept me enough interested throughout because of I had a lot of questions. Like, basically when I was done watching this movie, I had a ton of questions, and not necessarily in a thought-provoking way, more of like there's a lot of like plot holes kind of way. But I will say I feel like the mystery of it all still kept me interested throughout. What were some positives for y'all?
I think the biggest positives for me were the creepy moments throughout. Like, for example, the nightmare he has with Anthony Starr standing in the corner, and then you see Lizzie Kaplan down the fucking hallway. And they do it brilliantly, because usually in those movies, she'll start running, and they'll just show her start running, and then she'll disappear and then pop up right by his bed. But for this, they just turn the lights off. And then she just flies right through him, and then out of nowhere, she's behind him. And then that's when they do those great fucking camera work, where it just they basically do a 180 turn, and it turns back to him waking up and her consoling him. But it's those moments, and then also their death scene was done, I thought, really well. Especially Anthony Starr, the way he fucking plays that off is brilliant. The way he just starts coughing up that shit, and then he just collapses and just keeps staring at the kid while he's dying.
Yeah, and like, I don't want Melissa to think she's alone. Like, I definitely see the negatives in this movie, and that's why this is not the first time I've seen it. It's the second time I've seen it. And I think just the novelty of being in the theater by myself, because nobody had known this movie was coming out. I was like, oh, wow, Anthony Starr. And maybe I love him too much. Maybe I love Lizzie Kaplan too much. I don't know. So I had rated it higher, but it's going down every time I watch it, because Melissa's concerns are real. Like, there's a lot going on in this movie. However, yeah, things I like. All the deaths in this movie are great. Like, then there's a whole subplot where he's being bullied at school by the Busey that is not a Busey. And this kid breaks his pumpkin. And then they give him a new pumpkin, but he's not happy with the pumpkin, because now Sarah, the sister who's talking to him through the wall, David through the wall, says, you got to stand up for yourself. So how do you stand up for yourself? I don't know. I stand up for myself. I kick a kid down a flight of stairs and break his leg. He goes from 0 to 100, and he becomes like a Terminator. And then he gets expelled from the school, which leads to like the second act of the movie, where he's like being homeschooled, and emphasis on the schooling, because he gets a schooling from his parents for sure.
Yeah, the scene that you were talking about, Mike, earlier, I would say that was definitely one of the highlights. Like, I thought that sequence of like the nightmare was really effective. And again, I think one of the strong suits of this movie is the camera work. I think they were able to use like shadows really well. And again, I think the atmosphere and the mood was there. Particularly, I loved the shot of the two parents with like the shadow on the stairs. Like that alone was like such a great shot. Yeah. It's hard for me to like, there's not much more for me personally. It's like these little moments that I really liked. And then also, just to kind of piggyback off of John's point, I really think this movie it sucks that it got like the July release, and I wasn't able to see it in theaters, and I think that would have added to the experience, because I do think the sound design in this movie's good. So it just stinks that this didn't come out like during October and going to see it in the theaters. I think that would be a much better viewing experience for this movie.
Yeah, another great scene is, so he gets bullied. He kicks the kid down the stairs. The kid breaks his legs. He gets expelled from the school. But then on Halloween night, actually, the greatest scene in the movie is when it's Halloween night and they're eating dinner, and there's trick-or-treaters at the door, and then Lizzie Kaplan gets up and goes, "Go away!" That's the best part of the movie. That I love. But then after that, after the dinner drama happens, there's like a mini "You're Next," where like all these guys with animal masks come to, like, I guess they're gonna home invade an 8-year-old and beat the shit out of him in his house. but they picked the wrong goddamn house. That whole scene is like really good. The third act of just like Sarah going off on the bullies is pretty good. They just in the wrong place at the wrong time. Those are all really innovative death scenes, but it kind of leads to another criticism I have of the movie, which I'll get to later.
I will say this movie, I don't know if y'all felt the same way or not, but a part of it actually really reminded me of Tales from the Hood, the sequence with like the abuser, the kid being abused at home. There was a lot of elements of this movie that actually reminded me of that, because it was like, in that movie, doesn't he also like injure a kid down the stairs?
He crumples the picture.
Yeah, he crumples the paper and breaks. Yeah.
So like that part reminded me of it, and then like the teacher coming over to the house, and like, I was just like, what's going on here? but for me, it wasn't nearly as good as Tales from the Hood. But
that was clean. That's a very clean, like, I guess it would have served better as a short, but that's a very Rusty Cundiff as the teacher and David Allen Greer and everything. It's a very clean, like 20-25 minutes. I like that a lot too.
Yeah, and I don't know if y'all felt the same way, but I felt like this movie reminded me of a lot of different movies. Did you guys get the same impression?
Yeah. Every scene has like, maybe that's the Evan Goldberg, Seth Rogen and thing, where it's just like we're gonna borrow from everything. Like I remember when I came out and I was like, wow, it's kind of like Barbarian, I guess. And then there's that Your Next thing, and everything that happens in the movie. When Mike was saying the movies he reminded him of, those aren't even the movies that reminded me of, but his things are totally valid too. When you said like People Under the Stairs and Let Me In, I was like, okay, I can see that too.
Yeah, with all the bullying aspect, it gave me a lot of the Let Me In vibes, especially the third half of the movie. And then People Under the Stairs, it's her living in the fucking walls. It has the similarities to that right away that I got.
Yeah, I haven't seen People Under the Stairs, but I'll take it. Any other, I guess, positives did we want to touch on from the movie? Or should we lean into those negatives?
I mean, it's not a bad movie. I'll say it's not a bad movie. It's a good time. But like, when you watch it, the only advice I'd give you is like, if you had seen the theaters, you did the right thing. Just don't think about it, because the more you think about it, the more you're like, what the fuck? And then things start like crumbling slowly in your mind. That's the advice I'll give you, the viewer.
Is there any like memorable scenes or some scenes that we haven't touched on that we'd want to?
That we haven't touched on. Do you know what? I will bring up? It's a specific moment in the scene. It's where after Anthony Starr bites it, Lizzie Kaplan grabs a knife, and it gives that shadow shot of her grabbing a very psycho-ish shot where she starts chasing him around the fucking house with the knife. But it's that one specific shot of just showing her shadow in the kitchen holding the knife about to run after him. I thought was really well done.
Yeah, and I do think like I'm gonna second Mike's thing about the nightmare scene. Like the actual, like this, they kind of blew it in the trailer. If you saw the trailer to this movie, because I did see the trailer to this movie, like she's running full speed at the darkness, and like she should get there, but she doesn't get there. And they wait like just long enough, and they give you like a really good jump scare. And I'm usually like, I think jump scares are usually cheap and overused, but that's actually done pretty well. I'll give that scene was shot extremely well.
Let's get into some of the characters. How did y'all? I feel like we've talked about the parents quite a bit. How did we feel about the protagonist? What was his name? Peter.
He's a kid. Yeah, like I mean, honestly, okay. As big a fan as I am of a movie where the protagonist is bullied a lot, he was also bullied. But like this, like I didn't. It's definitely nowhere near as strong as Let the Right One In. But I mean, they pull it off, and he's fine. And I like them in I like them in Last Voyage of the Demeter, and I like him in this. He's definitely going to keep getting booked. He's got it. So, I've seen this character done better, but he didn't do a bad job.
Yeah, I didn't realize he was the kid from Come On, Come On, which
Also
I really liked him there. I like him okay here. I think it's better than Voyage of the Demeter. I think, yeah, it was fine. That's kind of where I'm at. It's pretty lackluster, but it's fine. He's good.
He doesn't
It's
burst
not
into
bad.
flames once in this movie. Like, ever.
Okay. Do you have anything to add, Mike?
I will say with the bullying thing, they clearly are telling you that he's been bullied way more than they actually show. We're seeing the tail end of his bullying, and that's why, like, I think I get the criticism of why he goes from 0 to 100 pushing down the stairs, but clearly this kid has probably been fucked with every single fucking day, and he's just tired of it. Like, how far are you going to push somebody before they do something insane as a small child? Who knows? Did he go to an extreme? Yes. But how far did they go with him?
He needs the Oscar scene where he's just like, with his shirt off and a knife pretending to talk shit to bullies. That would have been great. I wouldn't have minded them ripping off Let the Right One In if we got that scene in this movie.
Yeah, I think that would greatly improve it. I guess I feel like our last character is the teacher. How did you all think that character worked in the story?
It's fine, but like I don't understand. Like we never really seem to give Cleopatra Coleman any more to do. Like same thing with Infinity Pool. It's like, oh, she's in this movie. Hi, how you doing, Miss Coleman? Thanks for showing up.
Yeah, sorry, I felt the same way because like in Infinity Pool, it's like I like her, but I felt like she was underused there. And then I think for me, in this movie, why did she have to be a substitute teacher? Because I feel like that hurts the film more. Like I feel like if she was really his teacher, then it would make more sense some of the actions that she makes. Like my substitute coming to your house, like that seems a little crazy. Like 3 times, not just like once. Like, and it seems like she really cares about him, which that's fine. And it's like, okay, I guess that just shows how caring she is as a character. But it felt a little crazy for me. I was like, I just wish she was at least his teacher. It'd make a little bit more sense. I don't know if that, that bothered you.
Or she was like the counselor at the school or something. Like if she was the counselor at the school, that would actually make the movie make a ton of sense because then maybe she doesn't know the bullying is really going on. And then like, she kind of figures it out at the tail end. Yeah. Making her a substitute is a weird choice, because honestly, she does do some shit that should have gotten fired. And like, the principal dude's even like, you go to a student.
Well, and it's weird when she like shows up and she's like, where's your son? And he's like, he's grounded. Like, it's like, she already knows that. So just like, it feels weird. It's like, why do you have to go to the house? Why are you saying this? That felt very awkward to me. Also, I will say there was some like very strange dialogue in this movie. Like I think Lizzie Kaplan says something like, I was a teacher before I became a mother. And it's like, why do you have to say that? That feels weird. That feels really weird.
I mean, I don't. A lot of that's like her, like, and like characters she plays in a lot of things. But like a lot of the choices that either she's directed to do or that she does, like she becomes like a cartoon character at some points in the movie. Like when she's just like, I guess also if we're going to lean into the fact that like these are 2 people who went through the trauma of covering up a murder that now is never discovered, I guess that could break a person. And so I'm going to just say that that's why she's like that. And also why Anthony Starr is the way he is, like basically borderline Mennonite, in this movie,
Yeah.
Yeah, I will say that it's Cleopatra Coleman's probably the only reason why I did not give this closer to 5 stars or even 4.5 because her character really, there's no point of her character being there with the exception of being a sympathetic character. So that's the only reason that she's there. She, like, without her there, it doesn't really change the movie. Like, she doesn't even stop him from getting fucking attacked by Sarah the whole fucking time either.
I guess she is the reason why they win-ish at the end, like because she's there to distract her. It doesn't do much but distract her.
Yeah, they could have had like any other character could have been there to distract her. Like it was basically they put her there for sympathy, for us having more sympathy for the main character if we didn't already with the bullying. It was having her there basically feeling bad for what was going on with him.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I guess the character we've been kind of tiptoeing around, I think we should probably just get into it, is Sarah. The I don't even know how to describe her. Would you? Because I think that's maybe an interesting part or not. I'm not sure. But like, is she human? Is she supernatural? Is she something else? Question mark. The woman in the walls.
She's like
what did
she's like hills have eyes, human.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a great way to explain
Yeah.
it. Holds have eyes.
Like if everything in the movie is supposed to be taken 100% literally, she's evolved due to her captivity.
Yeah,
to be like this spider person, which is exactly what she is. She is a spider person.
oh,
She can climb up walls and across ceilings and shit. You know, like anybody would do if they were kept in captivity.
Yeah, Mike, how did you feel about Sarah before I get into it?
I will say I didn't mind her overall. I didn't mind, like, she does give one of the funniest kills in the movie, and that's the last bully losing his fucking head. Like, that shit got me. The moment he just goes across the corner, his fucking head's gone away. It's just kind of funny. It gave me again. It brought me back to other movies with that similar thing, but
like Jeepers Creepers 2.
Yeah, another one. Yeah, but yeah. Overall, I think the long hair worked for it as well, because it gave some more, like, not necessarily tense moments, but more jump scare moments of like by the bed and you just see the hair and that's it, or like her crawling across the walls and all you're seeing is the hair, and we never really get a full clear view of her face, which I think was probably the best approach that they could have taken with it, because it would probably been the Cloverfield moment if you saw the actual face. Probably be over.
You kind of see part of it when she.
Yeah, you see part of it, but it's a lot shadowed and shit.
She looks like freaking Grimcutty, which sucks, but whatever.
Yeah, I will say the bullies, like that whole plot line, I just felt like was like, okay, now Sarah gets to kill them all. Like, it just felt so like contrived a little bit. I was like, okay, whatever. But at the same time, like, yeah, some of the kills were cool. Some of it was interesting. Like, one of them got, like, I think pulled underneath like a piano, and it was just like splat.
Oh, I just gone.
But then it was like this, like, it didn't really look like blood. It was like that black splat.
It looked like blackberry preserves. And the weird thing about the whole bully subplot is like, what the fuck were those guys going to do if the parents were home? It's like, oh, sorry, we'll come back another time. And the one kid just going in there on the crutches is great.
Yeah.
And
commitment.
And the only other thing is like when the last one, the guy that loses his head is like looking over the railing and he's like, Brian? Meanwhile, there's blood splattered all over the fucking room. And he's just like, Brian.
I think my biggest problem with Sarah was like, it seemed like it just felt confusing if she was like this Spider Woman or supernatural, and then like why. Just there's a lot of questions, and I just don't know if it fully worked. It was a little clunky for me, but I think the biggest issue was like she seems like she has a lot of strength, and Miss Divine like was able to like make that wall go away pretty quickly, and you'd think that the strong woman behind the walls would be able to just like destroy the wall, but no, I have to wait until my brother is old enough to open the door behind the clock. Like, it just seems so stupid to me. So I don't know if y'all felt the same way or not, but
that was exactly. Let's get into me fixing, because that's actually the only thing I was going to fix.
Let's do it.
I can fix it.
Melissa actually, this is the first time ever. Melissa actually has like my biggest gripe with this movie. Like, it came out, like she rips a fucking kid's head off with her bare hands. She can't break through like 100-year-old drywall. Get the fuck out! Like, you actually get to see behind the walls. It looks like the freaking Evil Dead cabin. And blow a hole in that wall. It's like it's insane that, like, why would you like? And then she's like, I escaped from what? Like, you were back there. Like, you could have broken out of the house. Like, you could have broken to the outside of the house. So, like, I think they made her overpowered. She's OP, guys. She's overpowered. So, and So basically, she like lays waste to like three able-bodied older teens and a cripple, and then but then Cleopatra Coleman puts her down with like a fireplace poker. No, oh, and Peter can pull her hair. I'm pulling your hair, and that's going to disable her. So I do think like they did not present Sarah in a even way. Either make her like a weaker, like stealthy killer, which would have been fine, or like don't have the subplot where she's like in behind the wall. She should be in like a lead-lined case in the basement, right? And then also the other big criticism I have would be like, just tell the whole story. Like I think you're right. It would have been a great the movie should open. Lizzie Kaplan, Anthony Starr, they give birth to this mutant. 2 years later, whatever. Somebody sees her, they kill the girl, they jump 8 years later, and then you kind of have the whole backstory laid out, and that would have confused people up. Like, wow, I'm invested in this movie. Like, these people are fucking crazy and weird. And then you can have them like, then now they're trying to like, that whole thing with the mutant daughter and killing the little girl never happened. She's just missing. He. But these psychopaths are actually raising this normal kid, but they just can't keep their shit together because the girl is growing stronger somewhere in the house. Now, that's a great movie. Give me that. That's how I would fix it.
I love it. Yeah, no, I don't know. There's a lot of problems with this movie, but I agree. I think John has the right idea on how to fix it. Do we want to get into behind the scenes? I don't have much, but we'll get into it. All right, behind the horror. Biggest thing that this kind of felt like God is a Bullet again, where like I like couldn't find much information, and maybe that's part of the reason why they were like hiding it in this July release. I don't really know. But I did find that it was on the 2018 blacklist for scripts. I kind of feel like it should have probably stayed there, but and his only other, what's his name? Chris Thomas Delvin. His only other credit is the Texas Chainsaw Massacre from 2022, which I never.
Makes sense.
I heard it wasn't that great, but I haven't seen it, so I can't really comment on it.
There's some great lines in it, just like there's some great lines in this movie. So I guess he's good at like moments.
Okay. And then really lastly, all I had was that it was produced by Seth Rogen and Evan Goldberg, or that's two of the more notable names, which sure.
It felt like Sausage Party at points.
They're taking wild swings. They really are. They go from TMNT to doing Cobweb in the same summer.
Yeah.
Fucking interesting. Interesting approach they're taking.
Yeah. But that's all I really had. Yeah, it was really hard to find kind of much information on this movie. So, I don't know. Maybe there's more to the story that we don't know.
There's nothing left to do then.
Yes.
Yeah. That's some good stuff. So I guess should we get into the ratings?
Yeah, let's do it.
Yeah, let's find out if I thought this was a great fucking movie. Well, as I said earlier, there were a couple things that definitely put this a little bit down to not make it a great fucking movie, but I still had a wild fucking time with this. I enjoyed the goddamn ride throughout the whole thing. I love the kills. I love the stupid fucking line throughout. It was great shit. I gave it 4 stars, 4 VHS tapes. Instead of stars, we use VHS tapes as usual because we are the video store. Let's go, Melissa. What did you give Cobweb? 0 out of 5 VHS tapes.
Yeah, I will give it 2 VHS tapes. I just think there's just too many problems with the script. I do think the atmosphere was good. I think the sound design was good as well. The cast was good, but I think the script really held a lot of this back, and I think this would have been a good part of like an anthology story. I don't think it's a pretty short movie, so I do think it's worth your time if you like a good little spooky haunted house type of movie. But I don't know. I just kind of wish a lot of different things with this movie. So I'll give it 2.
Good stuff. And John, to close it out.
Yeah, when I saw this in theaters, I gave it 4. Then I just rewatched it earlier today, and it slipped down to 3.5 because I'm starting to question myself with it. So currently 3.5, and maybe I won't watch it again to preserve that 3.5 for eternity. Because I know the more I watch this movie, the more I'm like, they are 100% right with everything in this movie. This could have done so much better. So we're gonna say 3.5, and we're gonna freeze it. A mosquito in the amber at 3.5 videotapes as of right now. Talk to me next year if I watch by accident.
I like it. So as we're ending it off today, we are here for recommendations. So for like either evil kids or kid-led horror movies, let's start with Melissa. What recommendation would you like to give this week to the people out there?
Well, I didn't know it was evil kids.
Either kids or kids
Just kid-led
horror. Either way, yeah.
Okay. Well, I was going because I feel like I was going with the protagonist because I was like. I was almost going to cheat my answer, but I didn't realize that we could do that. Okay. Anyways, I'm just going to go with what I originally was going to go with, which I would say Coraline. It's out in theaters now for like a limited release. I don't know if it will still be out when this episode airs or not, but like it actually really gave me Coraline vibes, especially like the scene where they're like at the dinner table together with the three of them. I don't know, just it reminded me of a scene from Coraline. But I feel like Coraline is like masterful in like the imagery, and I just think the storytelling's a lot better. But I would go with that as my kid-led spooky movie.
I like that. That's good stuff right there. And I'm gonna go a little more on the nose of a movie I already mentioned, but like Melissa, you wanted crazy fucking parents. You get them in The People Under the Stairs, led by the Brandon Adams, who's also the picture in Sandlot. Kid gets stuck in a house with crazy fucking people, and he has to try to survive not only them but people under the stairs. It's a great fucking time. It's by Wes Craven, and it's just a fucking manic of a movie through and through.
Yeah, I need to check it out because that sounds awesome.
And yeah, John, let's end with you.
I actually, again, this movie was brought up. I'm going to give Anthony Tisdale credit for like reminding me this movie exists. But as far as like, kid-led horror movie, Stephen Dorff's first movie, The Gate from the 80s. Check out The Gate. Do the effects hold up? Hell no. They look like absolute shit. But the movie is really good, and I would recommend you watch it.
I've never even heard of it, so I'll have to check that out. Also, shout out to Aaron and Abby. They definitely inspired me with the Coraline pick today.
I like that. And before we end this episode, I want to throw this out there. It will be in the link. It'll be in a link in the details of this episode. Melissa has a show called Film Coven that is leaving the Video Store channel and is on their own channel called Film Coven. So definitely go check that out. Support them. They do great shit over there.
Well, thank you.
Yeah.
What are we doing next week, Mike?
Oh, yes. Next week, there's no new releases that are around us that we can actually talk about. So we're going again to an earlier classic, I would say. So we're going to go with a Wes Craven classic, Shocker.
Yeah, so your homework for next week, watch Shocker and then try to figure out what's a movie about another like inmate type criminal person who supernaturally comes after the people who put him away. There's a lot. Find one.
Well, that's it. Goodbye, everybody. We will see you next week for Why We Love Horror. Make sure to check out Why We Love Horror Trivia, also coming on the night that this airs. So check that out. Bye-bye.
Why, she wouldn't even harm a fly. Hurry back. Be sure to bring your death certificate.